Hello, lovelies. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back from summer holiday. I'm Sabrina. For those of you that are new here, I am a fantasy writer and narrative life coach here to help you create a life where you really feel like the main character and you get to step into your own personal brand of passion or starlight. So I'm really excited to be back on YouTube. It has been a while, a lot of fun summer adventures that I'm excited to tell you guys about today. But before we get into it, to dive right in, today I want to talk with you ladies about how to rebuild your life in 90 days without quitting on yourself again. And if you stick to the end, I have a lovely, lovely, lovely little treat for you all. So, and jumping right in, it's been a interesting summer. It's been a summer where there has been a lot of tenseness in the world, right? A lot of kind of conflicting truths and conflicting principles being shown on social media and kind of word of mouth with people talking to one another. And funny enough, it also felt like proper summer as well, where you get to dress up, doll up, enjoy the warm weather, enjoy the heat, slow things down for a bit before ramping back up. And when I had last seen you guys and given you insights on how to live your best influencer life, on how to kind of love on yourself and give yourself a little bit more grace and poise, as well as giving advice on how to kind of live in a romantic way, I found myself in a really dark period and celebrated that dark period with the trip of a lifetime to Paris. And I start with the Paris story because I think a lot of you will resonate with the takeaways that I gleaned while I was there. You know, at Paris, for the first time in 27 years, I had made the conscious decision to claim my truth, to claim my life as my own. And it started with a 2.5 hour walk, wandering from the artist bistros of Montmartre to Pont Alexander the Third, Trois, and walking along that bridge. This was a trip that, funny enough, I didn't share on social media as an aspiring writer, a content creator, and entrepreneur. I didn't share the glamour and the romance with others. I didn't even dwell on the myriad of problems that would face me when I was coming back home. Like many of you all, my finances have been hemorrhaging for quite some time. I've been stuck in a career I disliked, procrastinating for 90 plus days on everything under the sun. But under those glistening lights that burned like 1,000 little stars, this peace washed over me. I knew what needed to come next, and I want this to be the first thing you write down today. To rebuild the life that's falling apart around you, you need to choose the way um, you want to live your life in order to be happy. It seems like a simple philosophy, but a lot of us are ruled around so many circumstances that are outside ourselves. And as a reality, this truth gets bogged down. In 90 days, with just applying this basic principle for myself, I went from being broken and destitute to $13,000 richer, living with romance, with passion, with a hunger for each and every day. And so in today's video, I want to show you how to rebuild your life. And believe it or not, it's not going to take 90 days. It'll actually take you three. So let's get into it. Step one, you need to let go of the past, my love. My life up to this point, similar to a lot of you, had been, as the Parisians say, la pluie, le vent et le tempête. The rain, the wind, and the storm, the tempest, a storm that wouldn't stop pouring. I had built a five-figure admissions business for myself that looked respectable, but every day I showed up for it, it felt like betraying. It felt like betrayal. It felt like a betrayal to myself. I had also built this really shiny, sexy Fortune 500 career laced with shiny object syndrome, prestigious brands, prestigious titles. I had called myself practical, responsible, told myself I was playing it safe, but really, It was settling. Say it with me. It was settling. Because it doesn't matter what fancy things you have, what fancy titles you have. Who you are is not just your work, but it's how you show up for that work. And I avoided fighting for what I wanted. Now, you see, this is the part that most people face. They want out of the cycle, right? But they won't claim it. They circle it, they dream about it, they fantasize about it, they doom scroll through TikTok and Instagram about it, they talk themselves into exhaustion about it, but fear always wins out. And then they wonder, why does nothing change? To build the life you want today, I want you to first begin by seeing yourself as the architect. You're building something new. Let go of the past. It doesn't serve you anymore. If you skip this part, everything else will collapse. So in this room, in this YouTube video, in this space today, let everything go. We're starting from scratch today. Now, officially day one. You need to know yourself to rebuild yourself. Humans on average look at themselves 30 times per day in the mirror. Fun fact. I've worked in fashion and sports marketing for 4 years, and I too got caught up in hyperfixating on myself rather than addressing what was underneath. And what do I mean by that? To know yourself, you need to say what you want out loud. Out loud. And it sounds so trivial and simple, right? But most people, like myself, don't really want to look at themselves. They don't want to look at their wants, their needs, their hopes, their dreams, and have an honest conversation about the sacrifice needed to get there. But here's the truth, my love. You let go of the past, like we just discussed. You made that promise to me, and I'm watching you through this camera. So you let go of the past, sure. But you cannot rebuild your life until you admit what you want. That ache is the beginning, your North Star, your self-made starlight. Ignore it and everything will collapse around you. Every structure you build will collapse. If you found yourself in New Year, in Winter Arc, in all of these seasonal times, trying to rebuild, trying to start from scratch, trying to do something new, and it's fallen apart, this is why. Because you're not claiming what you want. So, to understand what you want, strip everything down. And I'm going to walk you through an initial example for this. But I want you to strip everything down and think if you can start tomorrow, start over tomorrow, there's no current circumstances, starting over tomorrow, what would your life look like? You need to know yourself. So begin digging deep. Begin digging deep. During my trip to Paris, I had been struggling for a very long time with reconciling the two greatest loves in my life, the arts and the creation of the arts. I'm a writer by trade, a fantasy writer. I have been writing books since I was like 6 or 7. Um, and I also, because of social media, have been drawn to content creation, but creating content in a way where it feels beautiful, it feels restful, energizing, and allows you to really pause. Before my Paris trip, I never said it out loud. I always introduce folks by my day job, by the job I hated, by my admissions company and the clients that I worked with, how prestigious they were. I'm Sabrina, Moroccan American in Amsterdam. I never opened up really and truly about the pieces of my life that were super passionate for me. I kept it to myself because it didn't seem respectable or representative, right? You don't go to school for 7 years, get 2 degrees from really prestigious universities to be a writer, to be a content creator, to be a coach. Society doesn't deem it as such. But when I started claiming it and digging really deep and understanding why this was so important to me, it created much more rizq, as we say in Islam, wealth, and opportunities to live in that authentic way. You would be surprised by how much of yourself you keep silent and keep on hidden behind closed doors. So, my love, day one, you need to know yourself. And knowing yourself is claiming what you want, not necessarily what's correct, not necessarily what the circumstances give, what you want. I want you to scream it from the rooftops, inshallah, today. Now, let's move on to day two, rewriting your future. Once you know what you want, most people stop. And even though for some folks it's very, very difficult to do the day one step, we know it, guys, right? You go on social media, Instagram and TikTok that I've been citing so many times, right? Because I'm a TikTok and IG girly at heart. But you go on TikTok, you go on Instagram, and you see so many folks claiming what they want, the Dior bag, the Hermes bag, the big house, the big holiday, you know, the trip to Bora Bora, whatever. People are always talking about what they want because it is difficult. But once you do it, it's easy. But they think that naming it is enough and that action will automatically give way, right? If I claim to the universe, for example, that I want 10,000 followers. I put it out there, so it has to come back to me. But my love, naming it is not enough. It really is not enough because desire without embodiment is pure fantasy. This is why your dreams die in vision boards, abandoned journal entries, and so many other fleeting ideas slip through your fingers like quicksand. To rebuild your life, really and truly rebuild your life, you must live pieces of your future before you believe in them. And that's the hardest part that 90% of people do not want to show up for. So I'm going to give you advice that goes beyond the write about the person you want to become and manifest ethos that so many life coaches and writers push. What I'm going to challenge you with is to do something unconventional that I've taught others. Test the limits. Test the limits. First, we already have your beliefs, right? We already have what you want. We made that known in day one, and we let go of the past in day point one, right? But there are negative stories surrounding those beliefs. I want 10K followers. Ugh, where am I gonna get the time to post 3 times a day? I want a rich husband. Ugh, where am I gonna find a rich husband? I want the Hermes Birkin, but ugh, the Birkin is on a wait list. Blah 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 blah. These complaints, because they are complaints, are negative stories. And they're very dangerous because when you complain, you give your power away to someone else, to something else. I can't do anything, so all I can do is talk about it. That's not action. So, I want you to test the limits. Write down those negative stories you've been telling yourself about what's possible or not. Write them all down. Then, write about the person, write about the day as the person you want to become now, and write those stories in a way that angers you, that enrages you, that puts the living fear out of you because you're like, yes, this is what I want, but it's not possible. Write in a way that almost pisses off, astaghfirullah for my language, but pisses off those stories. Write about the trips you want to take, the money you want to earn, until it scares you. Until it scares you. And the reason we need to get to that level is because, my love, you've been having your hand held for such a long time. You go to any of the girly kind of social media influencers, Wizard Liz, whom I love and cherish, and they tell you the same thing. Positive affirmations. You deserve everything and more. But we were not raised with that ethos as Muslim women, as generational women, as the daughters of immigrants, as the first generation daughters, the first change-making daughters. We were not raised like that. We were raised with fire and fury, and you need to scare yourself in that same way. To give you another personal anecdote about this, I was talking to my life coach yesterday Sumaya Etuji, the Healed Sister. I'm gonna plug her because y'all need to be on some type of coaching as well. And we had been talking about my dreams. And I told her, I want my book to reach 10,000 people by the end of the year. And 5 seconds later, I told her, actually, Sumaya, I don't think that's feasible. I don't think that's possible. Like, I'm not the best writer. I just don't know. How can I do this? How can I be enough? And she clocked me for it. She clocked me. She said, how do you think you're going to make any headway with this book that you've been writing for 15 years if you don't do what scares you? If you don't give yourself more credit, if you don't push the extra mile. And subhanAllah, it made me really take a step back. It's a silly example, but it's a real world one. Think about how many times you've told yourself you're not pretty enough, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not successful enough, you don't fit into those spaces that you desperately covet. How many times have you told yourself that, right? More than you can count. And subhanAllah, there are other women in that same position doing what you want, and you're living through a screen. And why are you living through a screen? Why are you living vicariously through others? Because you're not scaring yourself enough to understand what's at stake. In order to purge negative beliefs and negative stories, you need to scare yourself. So, to recap, right? Write down those negative stories that you tell yourself about what's possible or not. Then, write about the day as the person you want to become now. What would happen if today I went to Hermes with 12,000 euros or 12,000 bucks in my bank account? Barely enough to maintain ends meet. What if I went today? Write in a way that angers those stories. Write about the trips you want to take, the money you want to earn until it scares you half to death. Then you're going to take one idea from that page and start practicing daily. And just like that, you've rebuilt your core identity. And yes, wallah al-adim, it really can be that simple. Change is something that does take time, but it also can be instantaneous too. On day 2, let's make letting go of the negative stories holding you back instantaneous. Finally, day 3, how to commit to rebuilding without quitting. Here's the part. I wrote down, here's the part that breaks people, as if day 2 probably wouldn't break you already. But subhanAllah, this is the part that really does break people. Because people, once they get comfortable, they typically can claim what they want in life. They can typically identify the negative stories or the beliefs that are holding them back, especially if you're on this healing journey, inshallah ta'ala. But the last part breaks people the most because they expect change to be clean, to be upward, and to be predictable. My love, it never is. It never is. And so we need to officially begin kind of the building, the excavation, if you will, up the new pillars of your life in a way that feels good to you. So, like I've talked about up until the stage, right? From your first day, I want you to take the feedback you've given yourself around what you want in life. Write it down. Day 2, we've kind of drilled it in half to death, but I want you to take the negative stories you've been telling yourself and flip it. Right in the opposite way with regards to how you want to live. Write that down. But finally, on day 3, I want you to begin rebuilding through your rhythm. I want you to rebuild your life in that way. And the reason being is because if you want to rebuild your life, you have to learn to respect your rhythm and to respect yourself. When do you burn brightest? When do you dim? When do you need rest? Not when the manager or day job calls the shots, not when the clients and their calamities come crashing down, not when a million and one excuses that are overwhelming and overstimulating, I'm not gonna lie to you, but not when they say that your time is urgent. You need to rebuild from the lens of your actual cycles of energy. And when you fall back, you must treat it as information and not defeat. This is how you sustain the work, not through perfection, through rhythm, honoring and respecting yourself in the most sacred way. Going back to my silly little writing example, during my hiatus, my sabbatical from YouTube, I'm the writer. I have to use fancy language, you know? But during my time off from YouTube, I had needed to really build my writing muscle because it's the heart of the way I create content. It's the heart of the way I imagine and live in different worlds. And I had no idea how to do it because I'd never been consistent with writing ever in my life. I would post haphazardly and then I'd wonder why the results wouldn't pan out. My brain, right? And so I had a tendency to kind of hoard information the way that hibernating animals would kind of hoard and rummage and scourge for nuts and berries and the like. I'd watch a little bit of Ali Abdal, a little bit of Jed Hearn, a little bit of my life coach Sumaya, a little bit of the Wizard Liz, like just hoarding pieces of information to build the system that would work for me. None of it worked. Why? Because it's not packaged to me. Who am I? Well, I'm Sabrina the writer, but at the time that I was struggling with that, I was Sabrina, the deeply burnt out corporate executive who needed to find passion again. I needed a space where I could show up as myself, and if I messed up, if I fell back, that it could be information and not defeat. And so I joined London's Writers' Hour. It was a space that I found while reading books on my time. London Writers Salon. And through making the conscious choice to show up for a writing group that had multiple touch points, so it could be flexible for me and my schedule, allows you to be camera off or camera on, so you can choose to connect or disconnect when you want to write. Combined with just the constant reminders and reinforcement of the way to write, I was able to go from having no prospects for my book to securing a lucrative 3.5K writing contract on top of another 10K and other writing contracts on top of 10,000 words. The way you sustain work, it's not through perfection. It's not showing up at the right time in the right place and doing it every single day. This dunya is so unpredictable. This life is so unpredictable. The way you sustain yourself is through rhythm, honoring and respecting yourself. I'm in a place that I don't want to be right now, but I'm here. So this is what I need to get to where I want to go. Honoring and respecting yourself is the most sacred way to achieving your dreams. So take that a minute with me to really identify where you can do that. Finally, finally, I'm calling this last piece of the video the hero's valiant ending, but for you all, my queens, I'm going to call it the queen's valiant ending. So to continue with my story, when I walked the Pont Alexandre at midnight in Paris, completely by myself, like a crazy woman, I really had nothing to my name back then. And then, 90 days later, I told myself I would be great as Alexandre Dumas, as Victor Hugo, as Jean-Jacques Rousseau. I would be great as a creator, as a writer, as a connoisseur of this life, as you all are. And through that one little declaration, I became great. My days became unrecognizable. My calendar was filled with events I wanted to attend. I stopped denying my writer self, my creator self, and I just began to claim her. I pitched ghostwriting work that I actually enjoyed, fantasy, werewolves, unrequited love, drama, and the contracts and the money and the rizq flowed as it needed to flow. I coined, trademarked, and courted a new way of coaching, the starlight path, where I could help others find their starlight, their buried passion, using everything I know as a lover of the arts. And my love, I share all this not to humble brag, but to say you can do it too. Your Paris moment, it may not be under gilded lamps across Pont Alexandre like it was for me, but maybe it'll be at your kitchen table, or a late night walk, or in between work meetings. Or maybe it starts now with the quiet decision you make today to stop circling your life around the things you can't control and the things that make you powerless and start claiming it by knowing who you are, what you want, and building from there. It took me 90 days, but wallah al-adim, 3 days is enough to turn it around. So let's take a howl at that moon together, my love. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope this video was helpful. I will include timestamps as well as detailed descriptions of the takeaways so you really reinforce the learnings of today. And to celebrate coming back to YouTube after taking this 3-month hiatus, I'm opening up 3 free coaching sessions dedicated to walking you all through this 72-hour rebuild. There's no cap on the amount of people that are eligible. So if this resonated with you, there will be a link in the description box as well. And in the meantime, my love, here is to you and your starlight. I'm sending this video to you with love from the memories of my Paris trip. And stay tuned for a few exciting updates that are coming to the channel in the coming weeks. I'll be sharing a lot more of my writing with you all. I'll be sharing a lot more Starlight content. And really and truly, this rebuilding of our life is going to be a joint effort. Because the reality is, in order to rebuild your life in 90 days or less without quitting on yourself again, you need community, you need support, and you need love. And that is the humble price I'm willing to pay to help you all achieve your dreams too. All right, I'm Starlight Sabrina, Sabrina the sister. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And inshallah, I will see you at the next one. Bye bye.